Hey, welcome to Keight's Crafts. I'm Keight. Today I would like to share with you this adorable little baby card that I recently made. Let's get started. So, starting off, I am cutting everything down roughly to about 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, as I will be running my white panel through my die press machine, which is a Sizzix Big Shot, and that measures about 6 inches in width, but because I am using the outside in-stitch stackable die, I like to cut it at an angle so that way I don't put too much stress on my machine and I can get a better cut with it. So once I've run that through my press, I will kind of poke it out just a little bit like this so that way I don't tear it, because sometimes, depending on how thin the paper is, it can tear coming out of that die. So I'm just using my grid mat here to kind of give me a rough idea of where I need to be lining up my ruler, because I'm going to create kind of an off-center hole in the middle of this panel. So I've got the reversed stitch scallop circle window die here by Lawn Fawn, and I'm kind of just giving myself a rough idea of where I want it, trying to be technical but kind of eyeballing it. I just wanted to make sure that it relatively looks centered when I cut it. So here I'm just taking some Spellbinders low-tack tape to hold it in place before I run it through my press. And once I've done that, I think I'm going to save this little bit for later. I thought it was kind of an interesting piece of cutout. So now I've put down here a little bit of Scrapbook Adhesive Easy Tape Runner, and I'm going to use my pokey tool to kind of poke it out of the road there because I was a little sloppy-handed with it. And now I'm going to add some liquid glue so that way I could really adhere the acetate to it. Because yeah, I'm making another shaker card. I just love shaker cards. I don't know what it is, it's like my go-to. So anyway, once I'm happy with that, I will move on to make the well for the shaker card. Now, this is actually for a recent baby shower that I attended, and my friend that I'd gone with, she asked me if I could make a card for the baby shower, and all she said was that the woman that the baby shower was for liked elephants, and luckily I had one elephant stamp. And I got to use it, which I don't get to use it that often because I never think to use elephants. And I only have the one elephant, and I don't have any other elephants yet. I would like to get the Elephie Selfie, but I just have the flip-flop one. So it's on my list of Lawn Fawns to get, and eventually I'll get it. But there's just so many, especially with their new upcoming release. August of 2022. I'm quite excited about it. I can't wait for the freaking bats. That's all I have to say. The freaking bats. So, enough of that. I am just going around here to create my well. I'm not being too, too tight about my edges here because I'll be using some of the Recollections, specialty glitter, which really isn't the glitter. It's the things that I like to call microbeads. They're small, but not small enough that they'll fall through all these little cracks. And I just really like the sound that they make, as opposed to like other little shaker bits that I've used. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of map out the corners with these, so that way that the little microbeads that I do end up using are kind of delegated to one area instead of hiding behind the panel of paper. Or at least that's what my thinking was. I could have probably put a little more of the microbeads in, but I was kind of concerned about putting too many in and kind of losing sight of that really pretty all the dots paper, because that all the dots paper is really pretty. That yellow is just perfect for a baby card. So here I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because I put all the foam tape on the one side, and generally when I do pour these guys in, because they're so roly-poly, I can't just very well put them on the paper and then flop down this contraption that I just made, because they kind of roll everywhere. So Against my better judgment, I am peeling off the release paper. I have the tendency to knock stuff, and sometimes I send stuff flying, and when I'm working with shaker cards, sometimes I hit the panel, and things get stuck where they're not supposed to be stuck, because sometimes I'm just that clumsy. And it's a fact of life. So, anyway, once I've peeled off all of the little release paper that I have here, I'm going to add some liquid glue, and thinking that maybe it would give me a little bit of wiggle room, but this particular type of foam tape I used is super, super sticky. So here I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll just try a little bit, and, you know, thinking, yeah, maybe it might work. And then I start to see them fly all over the place. It's like, yeah, probably not the greatest idea. And then, of course, I stick my arm into the glue and the sticky bits, and it's kind of like, yeah, you should just stick to your tried and true method instead of trying to take shortcuts with this. So here I'm kind of figuring, alright, what am I going to do here? Am I going to do it? Am I going to just say, forget it and flip it over? And because I know once I flip that panel of all the dots over, I'm going to lose that little fine edge that I was hoping to get. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to put in some blue, and not a whole lot. I just want enough to make a little sound. And then I'm going to put in some of the iridescent ones just because it was super cute. And I didn't want just all blue, and I liked how the blue and the yellow go together. So I'm going to line this up thinking maybe I can do it. Maybe I'd be able to have that little border around the edge. And then once I flip it over, it's kind of like, yeah, no. And I think, well, maybe I can move it over. Nope, this is super stock, so I'm going to pull out my guillotine trimmer again, and I'm going to very, very carefully trim around the edges, and I'm going to lose that white, that polka dot panel that I was kind of hoping to get the edges of. So, but not all is lost. Don't worry. I end up pulling in some blue shimmer paper to kind of tie in with those little blue micro beads. So it works out in the end, and I become quite pleased with my misfortune. So, and since I've only got one image to color, I thought I would share with you that I used the neutral ends, N2, N1, N0, and these are the neutral grays, not the neutral ends. The N stands for neutral, silly, or number 2. Depending on how you want to look at it. But I'm just going in with some of my darkest color for the shading. This is very light, like pastel-y. I didn't want it too dark because the concept of the card was babyish, and baby cards tend to be pastel, and I didn't want it to take away too much, but I wanted it to be the focal point. So it was kind of like you have to balance this out right. And I thought about bringing in some N4 because it was a little bit darker than that N2, but I was just a little bit concerned that I would get too dark and have to restamp it again. So I just kind of put over a couple of layers where I thought I needed them, and then I went in with this N0. And because you need a sentiment on the outside, I had a couple of banner dies. And one of the banner dies fits inside of the other banner die kind of thing. And I figured, well, I'll bring out my itty bitty baby stamps from, I think it's My Favorite Things that I used. Yeah, it's My Favorite Things. This was just like an itty bitty stamp set that somebody had gifted me. And, or maybe I bought it. I can't remember. It was from one of my awesome friends who... She's super crafty and makes beautiful cards, and sometimes she likes to distash, and she hits me up, which those are the kind of friends I like. Anyway, once I've put a little bit of glue on the back side of that, I'm going to line up the little flagged edges of the banner die, of the banner cuts, I should say, so that way you've got that nice little cute blue border, and I'll put a block on that and weigh that down. And then I'll kind of line up my elephant where I want him to go to give me an idea of where he needs to be, because I am going to use, an R20 to give him a cute little cheek, because I forgot. Sometimes a critter just needs a cute little cheek. So with this guy right here, what I need to do is I need a strong adhesive on the back side of him to be able to stick to the acetate, and then I can use glue on the bottom half to be able to stick to the paper. So I'm just taking some double-sided score tape here, and I'm going along the top with these little strips that I have, and kind of giving me an idea of to make sure where everything needs to be, because I kind of want to cover the bottom of the arch of the circle, and that way it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of fills in the space nicely. You still get to see the background pattern paper, and you get the little shaker bits, and I'm going to add a little bit more tape runner because this stuff, the tape runner is a little bit thick, so it'll give it it'll offset it a little bit with the height difference between the panel and the acetate. And once that once the banner cut sentiment has been sitting there for a bit, I'm going to take some more of that double-sided tape, and I'm going to go kind of off camera here. Sorry about that. I'm going to add a little bit of glue so that way I can adhere it to the front card panel here. So once I've got that, I'll pull out my reverse tweezers and kind of having my grid mat help me out here, though you can't really see it. I want to make sure that everything is lined up so it looks relatively okay. And once I'm happy with the placement, I will push it down. So next I want to put in some embellishments. Now I had some Pink and Main enamel dots left over from a card kit of the month that I got from them. I think it was the one with the dragonflies. I can't remember the name of it. It was a few months ago. But I ended up putting down these yellow enamel dots, and then later on, after I've completed the card, I didn't like where that big one was. So later on, after I've completed the card, I end up moving that big one down to the bottom left. So once I'm happy with all that, I've gone ahead and stuck the big chunky tape runner on the back, and I'm going to add some glue so that way everything will stick in case the person receiving this card wants to kind of hold on to it for when their baby is older. And I'm just putting a piece of low tack tape inside so I can kind of eyeball it that way, because instead of getting that yellow border, we're going to go with the blue border, and I really like how it turned out. So there's my card. You can see I moved the enamel dots around. I like how this turned out. What do you think? If you've enjoyed today's content or found it helpful, please give this video a like. I also welcome you to subscribe, as I post weekly. Here's another video I think you might enjoy. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Take care.